And we are live. Let's see. As always, I'm gonna check first if I'm actually live or not. And then we can get started. It's always so strange to actually start the stream. I can tell you why. The reason why it's so strange is because I just go from being by myself to to a lot of people at the same time. And it always freaks me out a little bit. But at this point, I'm so used to speaking on the camera that I'm not so freaked out anymore. All right, let's see. Hey. So I hope you can see me. Let's see if I'm live on LinkedIn or not. Events. Hey, looks like I'm indeed live. Okay, if you can hear me, if you can see me, then write something in the comments so I can actually see that you see me and you hear me. Okay, that's the deal. I'm gonna be speaking today about JavaScript, right? And that's one of the most hated topics by the Salesforce developers, especially the backend Salesforce developers. So I'm really excited to speak about this. Okay, someone says you are here. Anyone else? Rune says you're here, full stack developer. That's very good. If you're a full stack, it means you already know JavaScript, right? Okay. There we go. Audible. You can see me. Wamze, welcome too. Okay, so first of all, I am really excited about this stream because this is one of the topics that I personally hated so much when I was a junior. I really didn't like the topic, and then at some point I fell in love with JavaScript, and now I'm a big JavaScript fan. So I really love JavaScript. But also it's interesting. Okay, so if you can hear me, and I know that you can hear me and that you can see me, but can you guys write in the chat from which city you are? Especially it would be interesting for me if we have anyone from US, because today, right now, at this moment, or I don't know if it's the whole day or if it's just a few hours in the evening, but this Thursday in US, there's a big thing. There's Thanksgiving in the US. And Thanksgiving. So what Americans do, they celebrate it with the family. They go together. They eat some turkey, I guess. I'm not sure. I have no idea. So hi everybody. Okay, hi anyone. Write everyone Oslo. Okay, write what countries are you from. Very interesting if we have the US people, because it would be interesting for me to see if we have the crazy people who are, instead of doing the Thanksgiving, watching someone doing JavaScript stuff. Isn't it crazy? That always fascinates me. We have India, Oslo. Also, I just let me send the link here to the comments. There we go. There is a link to YouTube, because knowing from how LinkedIn actually works for the whole live streaming stuff, I know that live streaming on LinkedIn might not work. So at some point, if you see that we are completely out of stream and the stream doesn't work, either I already finished the stream, or there's a high chance that the stream just ended on LinkedIn and you can still see me on YouTube, right? And this is also a good point for me to, let me close this one, to say that you should be subscribing. Kiev, Nikita, welcome, привет. So, you should subscribe to my YouTube channel. Turns out not that many people know that I even have a YouTube channel, that I'm not only so crazy and posting on LinkedIn all the time, basically living on this LinkedIn, but I also do have the YouTube channel where I am actually do post very cool stuff. Okay, so looks like we don't have any Americans. This is good. This is good. If someone from US joins, then you have to write in the chat. Okay? So if you haven't written in the chat where are you from, then you should. From what city you are. We have from Morocco. Yeah, Morocco, but what city? This is good. All right. So what I want to talk today is about JavaScript and TypeScript in Salesforce, right? Why is it important first? Why is JavaScript important? I would argue that JavaScript is probably one of the most important and in-demand skills right now for Salesforce developers. If you are anything of this, if you're a Salesforce admin, if you're a junior developer, if you're a middle developer, or if you're thinking about becoming Salesforce developer, then JavaScript is something that you absolutely should learn. This is something that you cannot avoid, especially if you're already a developer. Because you cannot progress from being this is you, and usually most people, not most people, but everyone starts as a junior. And we have someone from Paraguay. That's interesting. Okay, so when you start as a junior, you want to progress to the senior, right? So you want to progress to the senior. And the thing is that you cannot progress to the senior unless you learn a couple of key things, okay? One of them are definitely, I mean, Apex is obviously, right? Apex, everyone knows that you cannot be a Salesforce senior developer if you don't know Apex. But Apex, most people know it to some degree, okay? And something that I see so many cases is that people really, really try to avoid LWC or anything that is like front end related. Front end, right? So if your goal as a developer to become a senior developer, which it should be kind of your goal, then you absolutely should learn LWC and front end, and especially for all of that, you need to learn JavaScript. No, I cannot write already. It's just beginning of the stream and I cannot write. Okay, let's see who here knows a little bit of JavaScript. Okay, it would be interesting for me to see if you know JavaScript a little bit, right? If you know the basics, or if you know a lot of that, write plus in the chat. And if you have no idea about JavaScript, you have never ever done any JavaScript, then write minus in the chat. Would be interesting for me to see what's the crowd here. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Plus if you have some JavaScript experience, minus if you have none. Plus, I see plus. Why is it important? Because I don't want to just do the stream just out of my head and just kind of like just speak about the stuff that you absolutely have no interest in. I want kind of tailor this whole stream towards what you guys want to see. Okay. Nikita minus. Kaiser says, I worked with on LWC components. This is good. Alexander plus. This is good. AJ plus. Okay, this is good. So we have quite a few people who actually do have the experience with JavaScript plus. Okay. Now, the reason why JavaScript is so important is because let's have a look at top 10 programming languages on GitHub, right? So it's approximately, I think it kind of represents a little bit how it is in the world. It doesn't mean that it's the most popular programming languages in the world, but they're kind of close, right? So what you can see that in 2023, JavaScript was on the first place, right? JavaScript first, TypeScript third, and then we have in the middle we have Python, right? Now what happened in 2025? We have TypeScript on the first one and JavaScript on the third one, and Python is still number one, and it used to be So Python is number 2, and Python used to be number 1 all these years. Okay, so basically you can see that even if you go a little bit not to 2023, if you go 22, 21, 20, right? So all these years, you can see that TypeScript and JavaScript, they're probably one of the most popular programming languages on the internet ever. Okay, so no matter what kind of developer you are, you will always profit from learning more JavaScript and learning more in depth. Be it a Salesforce related or not Salesforce related, TypeScript and JavaScript are very important, okay? For any type of developer. You will not progress in your development career if you don't learn those languages, okay? So it's very important to learn them. I hope I made it very clear how important it is to learn. But it is especially important for Salesforce people because we speak so much about, like, I feel like so much content in Salesforce is around flows, Apex, whatever are the other admin stuff, right? Whatever, permissions, profiles, all this type of things. But so few people speak about these 3 frameworks: Aura, LWC, and Visual Force, right? And all of them, they use JavaScript. So literally, the whole front end in Salesforce is basically done with the JavaScript. There's no other way. It is not done with the Python. It is not done with Java or C# or PHP or whatever other languages there, right? It is JavaScript. So literally a 50% of the whole Salesforce development is front-end development, and it's JavaScript. And when you look at the amount of stuff, amount of the material that we have in Salesforce ecosystem, it's not 50-50 in comparison to everything. It's by far not 50-50, right? It's probably like 90% everything else, and maybe only 10% is front-end related. Okay? And for whatever reason, maybe the reason is because we don't have enough materials. Maybe the reason is something else. But so many Salesforce developers, they fear JavaScript. And I was one of them. I was one of them. The reason why I was so... Wait, what's going on? Hey, what's up, the stream? Is it working? Hey, can you still hear me? Hmm. Yeah, the video got stuck. The video got stuck, I see that. You hear me but not see me. Okay, now you should be able to see me as well. Yeah, the video is frozen. It's even on the YouTube, actually. Even on the YouTube. Yeah, now you should be able to see me at least through my camera. Let's see if I can bring my iPhone back. Yay! It's back. Well, I have no idea what happened. I have no idea why it quit. I'm back. I'm back. All right. Now the screen is back, right? The JavaScript. Yeah, perfect. The technology is always failing. I tell you guys, it is crazy how tricky is live stream. Like I really love live streaming. The reason for that is because I I kind of like interacting with people, especially if you're subscribed to me on LinkedIn. You've been probably following me for quite a while. I really love the interaction. Um, I also teach a lot live, right, in my cohorts, but this is different. This is different. All right, so let's speak about JavaScript. So when I was a junior, I was really, really afraid about JavaScript. And the reason for that was because, well, obviously I didn't know it in depth. And that really made my career really, really hard. And I would be trying to develop different LWC, right? Because this kind of like the main thing that you want to develop as Salesforce developer. I would try to write LWC and I could not understand why I am not good at writing LWCs. I would be able to do something with LWC, but I would not be able to do a big project. I would not be able to understand how to make complex components talk to each other. Okay, and that was really, really, really bad for my career. 1 second, let me do this. Okay, it was very bad for my career. It is bad if you are a Salesforce developer who cannot do LWC or who cannot do very well LWC. You will not progress, as I already said, right? So it was very bad. Now, the reason why I couldn't do complex LWC was actually because I was not understanding JavaScript behind it. Yeah, JavaScript. Because behind any LWC, there is JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. You don't HTML and CSS, they're trivial. They're not even programming languages. You can learn them in like what, an evening, right? But JavaScript is different. JavaScript, in the idea itself of the JavaScript, the paradigm, the whole way how you operate in JavaScript, and the whole mindset, if you can say it this way, about JavaScript is totally different. So once I learned how to do properly JavaScript, I could understand LWCs way better. And I can tell you the way I learned to do JavaScript is not by writing LWCs. I'll be really, really transparent with you guys. To properly learn JavaScript, the thing what I did is actually I went and I learned Next.js. Okay. So only once I learned Next.js or React, I could get way better at LWC. This is what allowed me to basically make the breakthrough in LWC. It still took me like 2 years from start to finish, basically, to be able to do complex stuff on LWCs and not be afraid of LWC projects. So if you feel like your LWC is rusty, if you feel like your LWC is not that good, then probably what you actually need to learn about not the LWC itself, but you need to kind of go deeper into the JavaScript. And today I want to show you a couple of things, like the beginning about JavaScript. And what I'm going to assume is that you already know how to do Apex. Let's do also a quick poll here. Plus, if you know how to do, if you know Apex on some level, and minus if you have no idea. Okay, so you can write a few things. 1 second. My girlfriend is calling me. 1 second. And in the meanwhile, you write plus if you have a little bit Apex skills, and minus if you don't, because it's important. It's important for me to understand so we can see what's the difference, basically. Okay, I see plus. Yeah. Okay, looks good. Is LinkedIn even live? Wait. So complicated. Yeah, LinkedIn is still live. Huh, good. Okay, plus plus. Okay, good. So, right. So I will just assume that you know Apex. Let's get started with some coding, right? So let's get started immediately with the things that are pretty different in JavaScript. Um, Usually, the way I really recommend people learning JavaScript is actually by going to a console and just starting like writing some some JavaScript. Okay, so that's usually the way I prefer doing that, and that's the way I recommend you getting started with this. Almost none, just my Apex course. Okay, my Apex course is already something. That's enough. That's enough for you, I would say. LinkedIn works perfectly. This is good. Yes, plus, nice. So, all right. So the first thing when you learn JavaScript, right? Let's say you have absolutely no idea about LWC and you want to learn LWC and JavaScript. I would always recommend to spend at least maybe 1 month learning JavaScript in depth. Okay? So just take the JavaScript and go as deep as you can with the JavaScript. This is always really good. Now, the thing about TypeScript as well, if you noticed here, then we have TypeScript and JavaScript. I think it's important to say what's the difference between them, right? TypeScript is basically an improved version of JavaScript. So you can say that this is JavaScript plus plus or something like this. It doesn't mean that one is better than another one. They both have different use cases, and I personally don't find TypeScript that cool anymore. I kind of like JavaScript, but it does have quite a bit of differences and good thing over JavaScript. The point is that if you're learning JavaScript or TypeScript, it's essentially the same programming language. Okay, the TypeScript just has a little bit more on top of that. Okay, but no matter what you learn, TypeScript or JavaScript, you're kind of learning the same thing, right? So no matter which ones you're going to learn. All right. So one of the really cool websites is actually this codepen.io. This is really cool because it allows you here. Let's go to the console. Here's the console. Hey. All right. It allows you here to basically write code and then immediately see the result. You can also open the blank page. You can also just use JavaScript files and your VS Code. But I'm using this because it's easy to kind of demo it on the live stream. Doesn't mean that you have to use it all the time, right? But for me personally, to just show you the JavaScript, it's way better option. So let's start with the types, right? So I'm gonna go over like stuff that is a little bit strange in comparison to Apex, and I think it's gonna be very fun and very interesting for people to see. Because those like small mindset shifts, once I understood them in JavaScript, it made JavaScript immediately super easy for me to understand. So types. Okay, that's not how you spell types. Here, types, right? Now, in general, we have two types of languages, of programming languages, right? We have strongly typed, and not strongly typed, not strongly typed. Okay, two types of programming languages. Apex is strongly typed, right? JavaScript is not strongly typed, or Python, for example. Python is also not strongly typed. So, what does it even mean? Let me show you. I'll show you how to create a variable, right? First of all, the variable. The most important, the first thing that you ever learn in the new programming language is always a variable. So I'm gonna put here let a equal to 5, and I'm gonna print out a like this. And you can see 5. Wow, obviously, right? But here's what's interesting. You can see that we never specified that a is a number. If it was Apex, the way you would do it is something like this. Integer a equal to 5, right? This is Apex. Now in JavaScript, you just say, hey, this is a variable a, and it's equal to 5. You never say what kind of type it is. Now, does it mean that there's no types in JavaScript? No. And this is important to understand. It's important to keep in mind that there are types in JavaScript Because I see that a lot of people mistakenly say that there are no types in JavaScript. This is wrong. There are types in JavaScript. The difference is that the types in JavaScript are assigned automatically to the variable. And in Apex, you have to assign yourself the type. That's the difference between strongly typed and not strongly typed languages, okay? It's not the only one difference. I'm going to show you a few more. All right. Now let's go here. We have let a equal to 5. Now, the feature of not strongly typed languages is that I can do a equal to Alex. And it's going to recompile, and it's going to show Alex. And this is something that you're absolutely not going to be able to do in Apex or any strongly typed language, right? So you can see that at the same time, in one transaction, in one execution, our variable is both an integer and a string, right? So it means that one variable can hold multiple types inside. And that's the key difference between the strongly typed and not strongly typed languages, okay? But again, important to know that that doesn't mean that this variable doesn't have a type. It just means that the type changes automatically as you reassign different things to the variable. So here, for example, what we can do is that we can say type of, right? You can say type of a, and let's see what it's going to say. It says string, okay? And if we remove this part, then it's going to say that the type is a number, right? So yeah, this is what's important. So this is the difference between the variables in Apex and the variables in JavaScript. And it kind of took me a while to understand that the types are there. They're never written explicitly. And it has, of course, the good side of it and the bad side, right? As everything in coding, it's always kind of a little bit of a trade-off. So in this case, you can see how easy it is to work for me with this variable. I really don't have to think what kind of type it is. In fact, I would say it's a little bit even more straightforward than working with the variables in Apex. Because if I put a number here into a variable, why would I need to say that this is a number? It should be enough for me to say that, okay, a is equal to 5. Well, then obviously the type of the variable is number, right? Not anything else, because I put the value of a number inside of this variable. So you can see actually in some way the variables in JavaScript are a little bit more logical than in Apex, okay? They basically reduce to their own idea of the variable, right? To the initial idea of the variable is just holding a value, and then you can assign any value you want to that variable. Now this is on the good side, but there's good and bad in this, right? So if we take this example, let a equal to 5. The problem with this is that when you look at this code, you cannot immediately see what kind of type it is, and you might treat it in a different way. So for example, if you don't know what kind of value it's written here, right? If you're just getting a parameter, for example, in a function, or you're just working in some way with a variable where you don't explicitly see the value, right? Then you don't really know how to work with this variable, and you might apply something like split, for example, right? So you might try to split it, but then turns out that this is just so that this variable is basically just a number, and you cannot split it, right? So the problem with the bad side of this not strong loosely typed languages, right? The problem with them is that they have a higher chance of you hitting an exception, hitting an error during the runtime. Okay. So the chance of exception of something that will uncontrollably just go wrong is so much higher because you never explicitly say what kind of type you're working with. So that's the big kind of downside of it. Okay. If you have any questions, guys, then it's nice to put them in the chat, because then I can see them and I can kind of steer the where do you want to go with this one. And of course, congrats on everyone who has the Thanksgiving. Do we have anyone from US? I want to find that one person who actually joins the live stream during during the Thanksgiving. I do want to find this person. All right. So yeah, so this is about the variables. Now, to add to this confusion, JavaScript has a couple of different ways to declare the variable. Not only, so let me remove this thing. Not only the types are not obvious. Here we go. Also, instead of let, you can have different things. You can have var, and you can have const. And if you kind of search for official definition, what the hell is going on with those JavaScript var and const and blah, 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 then, Carla, you're from US. Yes, we found that person who is joining coding streams during the Thanksgiving. I guess congrats for you for the Thanksgiving, and welcome to the stream. Panos, you're also from the US. That's very nice. A second person. Welcome. I'm really happy that you're joining my stream during such an important day. Are there any good practices for handling different data types between JS and LBC and the Apex backend? Actually, yes. So usually the way, so here's the thing. In LWC, basically, what you have in LWC is usually it looks like this, right? So here's your front end. Let's say it's LWC, and this is your backend, and this is usually Apex, right? And what happens is that usually you kind of ask for the data. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everyone who is watching. Here, I have, as a celebration, I have here an army of turkeys. So, yeah, that's my that's my way to signal the celebration. Okay, so we are requesting from LWC, we are requesting some data from Apex, and from Apex we are sending some data. Right? Usually it looks like you're just calling an Apex controller, something around that. Now, in most cases, the data that you want to display on LWC is not exactly formatted in the same way as you have it in Apex. The reason for that is because backend, it works with the objects, right? So Apex is object-oriented programming. So we have a lot of objects, and we have like contacts, we have like accounts and all of this, right? But LWC, it works with the JavaScript, and in JavaScript, there are objects, but most likely there is JSON. There's either JSON or there are JavaScript objects, right? And the JavaScript objects and Apex objects are not the same. And this is where we have this kind of issue where we are trying to get something out of the backend into the front end, right? And this is where we need to try to parse it again. And I'm frozen again. What is going on? All right, then you're gonna look at me like this from this camera. Let me actually let me get my phone if it's like this. Yeah, then you're gonna look at me like this. Okay. Here we go. Technology is failing. It's 2025. We have AI, but we don't have a good streaming. Anyway, so you have this problem where in LWC, it is different in comparison to Apex. So the solution for that is building a wrapper. Trying to visualize it here. building a wrapper and taking this wrapper and using this wrapper all the time for communicating between LWC and Apex. That's the best practice. Okay. That's the best practice for communicating. About handling different data types, they are actually very easy to kind of put together. Okay. So what are data types? Okay, guys, write in the chat what are data types in JavaScript. Let's see. Let's see how many you know. I have it here written. Let's see. I'm gonna be writing what you write there. So in Apex, we know I'm gonna write in Apex while you're writing in the chat what are the JavaScript data types that you know. Just no googling, just out of your head. What are the types? I'm gonna start writing the Apex one. So we have integer, we have string, we have boolean, we have s object, we have object, we have list, we have set, we have map, okay, and on top of that we have decimal, we have what's that, not float, but how do you call it, we have long, and we have double, double, and we have double. Okay, someone says boolean. Okay, now this is Apex. Okay, so this is Apex JavaScript. Let's see what do we have in JavaScript. Someone says boolean. Yeah, exactly. So boolean, we have boolean here, and we have boolean in JavaScript as well. Okay, so this goes one-to-one the same. Now we have string, and we have string in JavaScript. But now the interesting thing is that we have long, decimal, double, and integer in Apex, and all these types, they are just number in JavaScript. Which makes sense if you think about this. Why do we need to have 4 different types to represent numbers? Because when you speak in real life, you don't differentiate between those two different, right? You don't differentiate between long and a decimal and double and integer. No, you just say it's a number, right? Why should there be a difference between 3.5 and 4? Why should they be different types? Kind of doesn't really make sense. So in JavaScript, I think it's actually a little bit more logical, where everything is just a freaking number, and that's all, right? So you can see how those 4 types, they're represented as a number in JavaScript. Then we have S object and we have object. Those two are also represented with a JavaScript object. Okay. Then list and set, they are represented with array. Okay. And map, there's no native, there's no simple dot type for that in JavaScript. Okay, so you can just cut it out. So those are the fundamental, basically, data types. There are also different other things. There are other things, like for example, null. In Apex, this will be undefined, and null. Okay, in JavaScript, it can be both. In JavaScript, undefined and null is essentially the same. Okay, so they are the same. Okay, then there are also a few interesting things in. Yeah, so basically one of the, okay, let's do it like this. Okay, so let's focus first, like today, let's focus mostly on the simplest one. Let's focus on number and string. Okay, so we're just going to be focusing on those two. We're going to be focusing on anything else. right? So we have this. We have then let's create another one. Let b. And I think I didn't really finish why I didn't really finish here this thing, right? So we have the keyword let and we have keyword var. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and const. Now, out of all of them, the only one that you should be using the most will be let and const, and you should absolutely not use var. Okay. I don't think it even makes sense for you to kind of try to understand what does it do, this var. Essentially, it just allows you to create a variable that has a little bit more scope visibility, which is not really cool. Like we don't want to have it. So like var, just don't use it. Now let is the way you can create a variable, and then the another way is const. And const, the only thing that it means that if we try to do like this, const, let's try to do it. Okay, it's gonna say type error. Okay, you cannot reassign to a constant variable. So this is good. Const just basically means it's gonna be a constant and you cannot reassign it. So it's a good one, right? But in most cases, whenever you create some kind of variable in JavaScript, especially when it comes to LWC, you're gonna be using let. Let is your 99% of the cases where you should be using. Okay, not var. I've seen so many var variables in LWC code in my life, and it's not something should be happening. Unfortunately, no. If you guys have any questions, then shoot them in the chat. Shoot them in the chat. All right, so we have the let, we have yeah, and now you can see how I reassigned it, right? So let's create another one. Let b equal to 10, right? And now here we're gonna write a, and let's write b minus a. Okay, and that's gonna be pretty straightforward. It's gonna be 5, right? 10 minus 5, 5. But something that people really complain about, especially especially when I was a junior, that was so confusing for me, is that in JavaScript, the operations between different types is very not clear. It is absolutely not clear how JavaScript actually does the whole operations. So let me check here in my notes so I don't show you. There you go. Let's do it like this. So I'm gonna write the code, and you guys guess in the chat what are we gonna see. I'm gonna multiply 8 with null. Okay, and you guys write in the chat what do you think is gonna be the result of this. Just a guess. It is really impossible to basically know this, but just guess what it's gonna be. Would be very interesting for me to see. 8 null. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna uncomment this and let's see if you guessed correct. And we see 0. So you see, it is a little bit not clear. Why is it 0, right? Why, when you multiply a number with a null, why is it 0? Well, it's not really clear. Okay. Now, if you go here and you do 5 minus 1, guess what it's gonna be? Now you're gonna see it. It's gonna be 4, right? Which is strange. Hey, what's going on here? Okay, so 5 was somehow actually transformed into an actual number, right? And then we actually made the actual subtraction here. Strange. Okay, let's change it to plus. Yeah, let's change it to plus. And now we're gonna get 51, and it's gonna be a string instead of a number, right? This is strange. This is strange again, because we just had the same thing with the minus. What's going on here? But with the plus, it's going to be actually adding them as strings. So as the minus, it treats them as numbers, and then as a plus, it treats them as strings. This is not clear, right? Okay, what happens if I multiply string by 2, right? Let's change it now. And I'm going to get actually 10. What the hell is that, right? Okay, what if I change this 5? I change it to 5. Right? Then I'm gonna get none. And what if I try to check if false is equal to 0. It's going to say true. And you look at all of this and you're like, what the hell is going on, right? Why does JavaScript behave in such a weird way where the combination of different types, it completely random what's going on with them, right? You saw here's plus, it's strings, here minus, it's actually as numbers. Absolutely not clear. And the rule is actually pretty simple. So I'm going to explain the rule here. I'm going to explain the rule. Here's the rule that you can remember to basically deal all the time with variables and this type of conversions, right? And the rule is like this. Don't mix types. Okay? Don't mix the types. Don't mix the types. Okay? That's the rule. If you have two different types, you should not make any type of operations between them. This is, you would never think about doing this in Apex, okay? And the reason why people are so confused is because they are looking at this and they're like, oh yeah, JavaScript is so illogical. But this is because you're trying to do very illogical operations. So in general, what do you want is you don't want to mix the types in JavaScript, right? Because JavaScript, what it does, it takes those numbers. Let's say we have 5 and we multiply it by 2 as a string and a number, right? What it's gonna do, what JavaScript is trying to do, is that it's trying to take this whole operation, and instead of throwing an error, instead of saying, hey, this is an error, instead of doing that, it says, no, I'm not gonna throw an error. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna try my best to take those types and convert them to some kind of similar type that they have in common that I can use to actually perform some kind of operation. And it looks at this and it says, okay, so it's similar to this, so I'm going to treat it as a number. But in other cases, it uses completely incomprehensible, completely logic that you cannot understand. It's using it to basically trying to convert them to the same type, okay, and actually make the operation. So you absolutely cannot learn those rules. It's, you rather go and learn Chinese than those rules, how JavaScript does that. But the good news is that you don't need to absolutely know those rules or understand anything about them. I have no idea about them. Okay, if not for the preparation for this live stream, I wouldn't even read about them, because in most cases you just follow this rule that you don't mix the freaking types. Okay, when you have a clean code, when you have a good structured code in LWC or Visualforce or Aura, then you just don't mix the freaking types, and then you don't have to worry about those things. Okay, so if you have a string, if you have like a contact, and this contact has a whatever last name, don't try to multiply this last name by 100. Okay, that wouldn't make any sense. And in most cases in real life, you're dealing with normal, simple values, and you really don't need to do that. Okay, in most cases, you will not run into all this interesting and crazy stuff in JavaScript. So people really overthink this whole type thing in JavaScript. So this is my small rant about all of that. Do you guys have any questions so far? Because it's really important to understand this part. It took me quite a while to understand all this in JavaScript. Okay, because you'll definitely see a lot of examples that people are gonna tell you how illogical is JavaScript, but don't believe them. JavaScript, yes, it might be not the perfectly written language, but which language is perfect, right? None, especially not Apex. So JavaScript is actually pretty good on that front. And the reason why JavaScript actually trying to somehow convert the types is, first, because it's not strongly typed language, right? So it's gonna try to do it on the runtime. And the another thing is that it doesn't really doesn't want to show you an error. It really tries not to show the error. It really tries to avoid basically crashing your whole program. That's the deal. That's the deal. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much about those types. I don't think there's anything else about it, right? So if you have a number, the only thing you do is like let a equal to b equal to 5, and then let b equal to, let's say, 0.5. And you can see that both of them are going to be numbers, right? So if I say type of b, it's going to say that it's a number. And it makes sense. Makes sense. It's a number, even though it's a decimal point, but it's still a number. Okay. Yeah, let's see what else I have prepared in my notes. Yeah, there are also things like infinity in JavaScript. Infinity and minus infinity, right? So it's like 1 divided by 0. What's going to do? It's going to show infinity. Again, in real life, you will almost never face this type of things, okay? So you will actually almost never face it. Now, a very important thing that we actually never spoke about so far is something that I see confuses a lot of beginners in the beginning, is difference between those equal signs here, right? Because in Apex, you have only this equal comparison, right? You compare like integer A to integer B, and then you just compare it with this two equal sign or something. So you only use this one. But in JavaScript, you can use two of them. So remember what I said before, that the JavaScript is gonna take whatever type you have, and it's gonna try to convert automatically, do the type conversion, right? So for example, 5 is equal. Let's see. Can you guys write in the chat what do you think is going to be answer for this one? What's going to be answer once I uncommit? Write in the chat. What's the answer? I will just reveal the answer in a second. So the answer is, let's see, true. That's the answer, right? So what happens here is that JavaScript takes 5 that you have on the left side. It sees that there's a string on the left side, and then there's a number on the right side. And it's trying to find for them something like some kind of type that is common for them. And it understands that the 5 on the left side, even though it's a string, it is actually a number inside. So it's trying to convert them into something similar, okay? And it does this automatic type conversion. So if you don't want to have this automatic type conversion, what you can do in JavaScript is that you can add one equal sign. So it's going to be 3 equal signs. And that signals to JavaScript that you're kind of disabling the automatic type conversion for this particular code here. So in this case, you can see that 5 equal to 5, it says false, because a string can never be equal to an integer, to a number, right? In the essence. Of course, it can be if you convert them into same type, but in general, you cannot say that the string John is equal to 5, right? This is not how it works. This is not, this is kind of, that's meaningless thing. So this here, it is doing automatic type conversion. I'm not sure how to write it properly. And this one disables type conversion. Okay. So in most cases in LWC, you wanna use this one. You wanna use this one that disables the type conversion between the things. Because if you have a string and if you have a number, you really don't want to compare them. It means that somewhere something went wrong and you made some kind of mistakes with the parsing, with some types, right? So you don't want to have this. And you can see this type problems. This is exactly what TypeScript solves, right? So what I'm telling you about right now, this is JavaScript. And TypeScript, it tries to solve those problems that we are speaking right now, where the types conversion is not clear. So in the TypeScript, you actually define the types explicitly. What are the types? Okay. Let's see. Any questions? Maybe not necessarily JavaScript related, just in general, LWC or something around that. Because it would be nice if you guys allow me to do a small ad break with ads. The streams are free, right? So I'm teaching you for free. So my only thing that I wanna in exchange is that I wanna tell you about my upcoming LWC cohort. Right? That's the only thing I wanna tell you about. And the only thing I'm gonna tell you is that I'm gonna teach you for the 12 weeks LWC from scratch. If you're interested into it, if you're interested in getting better at LWC and JavaScript, then join the cohort, and me and other senior developers going to personally teach you and also have one-on-one mentoring, and we're going to bring you all the way to be a really, really great LWC developer. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay. So another strange thing that we have in JavaScript, something that is, again, I'm going to go way deeper in my cohort, but something that is a little bit not clear for so many people are functions. Okay, so let me go in my notes to the functions. Here we go, functions. Where are they? Okay. Here we go. So let's create a function, right? Functions. I'm going to create function, and I'm going to say it's add, and it's going to add two parameters, and it's going to return a plus b. It's a very simple function, okay? Now let's call this function. So I'm going to say console.log add 5 and 2, and let's see, what do we have? We have 7. So it works as you would expect, right? Now, functions are really, really interesting in JavaScript. They are so different. So if you're coming from a basically more Apex or backend or like Java related background, then functions, I think it took me a really, really long time to kind of understand the essence of the functions. So let's cover them. Functions. Now, first thing is function is the same as method in Apex. Is it the same thing? And the answer is no. Okay? It is a similar concept, right? It is kind of like a template of executable code that you can call. This is method in Apex. This is function in JavaScript. But function in JavaScript is so much more than just that. You can do with functions in JavaScript so much more, crazy more. Okay. For example, what you cannot do is that you cannot put a function into a variable in Apex, right? But in JavaScript you can. You don't have arrow functions, but in JavaScript you do have arrow functions, right? So you don't have many different things. You cannot pass a function as argument, right? You cannot have it in the array, right? You cannot do any of that in Apex, but with the function in JavaScript you can. Now, here's an interesting thing, what I'm going to show you, which usually blows mind. Okay, so here, if you write type of, okay, it says a number, let me show you it a little bit later. Yeah, let me show you. The first mind-blowing thing that you can do is that you can have a variable that says let add equal to, and then you have a function like this. Okay, now you can call this function. So what we have done here is basically we assign to this variable a whole function, which is crazy. Like in Apex, you absolutely cannot do that, but in JavaScript you can. And let me show you what is the type of this variable add. It is a function. So it turns out to all our things, to all our data types that we have here in JavaScript, we need to add one more type, which is called function. Okay. And this is the key difference. In JavaScript, a function is actually a data type in the same way as a Boolean or a string or a number. It means that you can have those mind-blowing things where you can have a function as a parameter, or where you can return a function from a method, or where you can have a list or array of functions. And this is absolutely crazy in comparison to Apex. Okay, so function is significantly different in JavaScript. Okay, and let me show you more mind-blowing things. So here, we have this code, and now this code we can simplify even more. So we can just remove this word function, and we can use the arrow function like this. Basically, what we say is that this is a function, and we are assigning it to this variable add. We can, of course, use this variable to do 2 and 3. So we should get 5 like this, right? But you see, it's way less code. Now we can simplify it even more. We can remove all of this, and we can say that it's equal to A plus B, like this. And now we're going to see 5 again, right? So you can see it. Let's just change the values. So you can see how very simple it is to write a function in JavaScript. And we can do it very concisely. And this is not something we can do in JavaScript. And now we can even take this function and we can even display it here, right? I'm not going to do that. But the point is that functions are completely different. Functions are basically like a fundamental part of JavaScript. Okay, any questions as of right now? Otherwise, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Okay. All right. I don't see any questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This was the beginning, basically the very basics, the overview of JavaScript, and I hope that you learned something new. So yeah, see you everyone in LWC cohort, or see you everyone in LinkedIn and on YouTube. Thank you so much. Bye bye, everyone.